And our last panelist is Dr. Keith Ballard for Tulsa Public Schools.
Thank you. Wow, that was terrific. I really enjoyed your comments. And, you know, I have to say, how's that? Is that better? All right. I enjoyed your comments very much. And I have to say that that may be the first time I've heard someone say that Booker T. Washington was an inferior education. Because Booker T. Washington has always been a superior school, way back before it was turned into a magnet school. You know, as I listen to the comments this evening, I think about, is this about numbers? When we talk about resegregation, is it about numbers, or is it about quality schools and excellent schools? But the Tulsa, can you still hear me okay? What the Tulsa Public School Board, and we have a couple of our school board members here. Wow, you have to be on top of this, don't you? I got that. Thank you. Okay. How's that? Is that better? Maybe I had a mic that just wasn't working very well. I have a couple of Tulsa Public School Board members here this evening, and you know, the credo that we believe most in is that we will have a quality education for every student, every day, without exception. And I think that's a lot of the discussion that we have heard this evening. Although there were a lot of numbers that were tossed out, and I do think that numbers are important. And if we take a look at the topic of the evening, then we need to take a look at some people who are really, really good with numbers. People ask me, what is it that you like best about TPS? And it's always very easy for me to answer. The thing I like best about Tulsa Public Schools is the diversity. I think diversity makes us stronger. I think diversity makes us a beautiful school system. And I think it really helps our students learn from each other. And that's how we learn about racial issues and learn about each other, is by having the opportunity to be in a very diverse environment. And our demographics have changed considerably. Mr. Martinez did speak to that. Today, we had a 29% Hispanic population. We had a 28% black population, and we had a 26% white population. You know, tenths of percentages either way. We have 8% who are showing that they are multi, and we have 7% who show they are Native American, and we have 1.5% who show that they are Asian. Interesting fact, as I begin to take a look at some facts and figures and think about this presentation, and I'm delighted with the size of the crowd and the interest in this evening, because it does take all of us to ensure that we have a very strong school system. As I looked at our number of transfers, I can tell you that over the last 3 or 4 years, that the number of transfers at the elementary level, or the people who are wanting to move out, are down considerably. And so I think that tells us that we are strengthening the neighborhood schools. And that has been the theme of listening to 2 or 3 of the speakers, and it is what we at Tulsa Public Schools absolutely believe, that the emphasis really needs to be on making every school an exceptional school without exception. As I have taken a look at some of the data, and you know, kind of like Mr. Blatt, I have quite a bit of data here. I have found that we have some sites that have been predominantly Caucasian in the past that are now becoming very diverse. Take a look at Memorial High School, for example. In 2005, Memorial High School was 60% Caucasian. Now Memorial High School is about 23% Hispanic, 33% black, and 26% white. And that has happened not through forcing anybody to do anything. It's happened because of changing neighborhoods. It's happened because we have a highly sought after engineering program at Memorial. It's happened because we have a really good school there. And I think that's how we will see the changes in seeing that we have more diversity in some of our schools. You know, without going into a lot of detail, let me just offer some numbers, and then I want to speak overall to what I think is really important. In our 51 regular elementaries, and I'm not taking into consideration students who are categorized as multi, we have 9 of those 51 who are showing a population of 50% or above who are Black. We have 10 who show they are 50% or above Hispanic, and we have 8 who show that they are white, 8 who are above 50%. We have 24 schools, not taking again into consideration a Native American population of about 7 or 8%, and a multi-population that varies significantly from school to school, somewhere in the range of up to 12 or 13%, as low as 4 or 5%. But I found it kind of interesting when I started looking at these numbers that we have 24 of our elementary schools who are without a 50% majority in that school. And once again, I will say at the very basis of my philosophy, it is that it ought to be a natural migration. It ought to be that every school is so good in every neighborhood that when people get up in the morning, they don't have to look for a better education experience. And I'm going to speak to some of the components that I think allows that to happen. Moving on to our 12 middle and junior high schools, once again, you know, we have more schools who have a racial balance than not. We have 2 schools that are showing, not again taking into consideration the students who show their race to be multi. We have 2 that have a 50% above Edison. That's Edison and Thoreau. We have 2 who are showing that they are 50% above Hispanic. That would be East Central Junior High and Will Rogers Junior High. We have 3 that show they have a Black population that is above 50%, and that would be Monroe Demonstration and Central Junior High and McLean Junior High. I want to come back to Monroe Demonstration here in just a little bit. We have 9 traditional high schools in Tulsa Public Schools, and we have 1 which shows exactly at 50%, and that is East Central High School, which shows they are 50% Hispanic, 21% Black, and 15% white, and then we have a larger multi a smaller one, about 5%. 2 schools that show they're above 50% in the Black population, that being Central and McLean. And we have 1 that's showing they're above 50% in the white population, and that is Edison. We have some schools that are showing significant balance, and the best example of balance will come from diverse neighborhoods and the school reflecting the neighborhood population. But there's another phenomenon that I think we need to think about when we think about diversity in all of our schools. And I know, for one, I see Julius Pegues here this evening. I don't know if Nancy McDonald is here or not. I will tell you that while there are a lot of people who I think had a tremendous amount of foresight in the 70s about choice schools and magnet schools, where the draw is excellent education. While I believe, although I wasn't here at that time, that there are a lot of people who are involved in that, I think those are the 2 principal people, and I think they deserve great acclaim. I think they deserve great acclaim and recognition for having the foresight to say, what will attract people to a school? An excellent, well-rounded educational program. And we want to take a look at balance. Well, let's take a look at Booker T. Washington, which is 30% African American, which is 35% white, 14% Hispanic, and the rest being made up primarily with multi. Another good example, and I could probably credit the same too, with having this involvement, is what happened at Carver. And you know, really good things don't happen without a struggle. And I've gone back and read the newspaper accounts of the struggles, particularly at Carver. And I have great admiration for those who said we can achieve balance by having excellent schools that will cause people to want to come to those schools. Carver, 33% black and 33% white, about a 20% Hispanic population, the rest being made up with multi. I think some of our recent movements toward very good magnet schools will bear fruits in seeing to it that we have diverse populations. Two of those that I am very proud of, and they really stemmed from a lot of public discussion, particularly in north neighborhoods where we heard about the lack of high-quality magnet schools. Now, certainly that doesn't count Carver nor Booker T. But we heard some discussion around a great demonstration academy as far south as you can get in this community. And we heard discussion about dual language programs. And so we went into a neighborhood, because good schools impact neighborhoods. We went into a neighborhood where an absolutely beautiful school had been closed. Oh, there were a smattering of programs in it, but it basically had been closed. And that's Monroe and the Monroe neighborhood. And we started two programs. We started the Monroe Demonstration Academy that is absolutely patterned exactly after Thoreau, complete with the first couple of years in that program bringing the principal from Thoreau and officially making that principal from Thoreau also the principal at Monroe, so that we ensured that we would get the same quality of program that we had at Thoreau. We're well on our way. We are well on our way. This year, we assigned a principal who had studied under the principal at Thoreau for a couple of years to be the principal at Monroe. Monroe will continue to grow, and people will look at it and they will say, that's where I want to go to school. And Monroe will become diverse. I believe that that will happen. And the other thing that I heard loud and clear during community forums was the lack of a dual language program. So Monroe's a nice sized school, so we incubated a dual language program in that as well. And I had those figures in front of me. It's interesting right now, sitting there in North Tulsa in that Monroe campus, we're achieving a pretty balanced population in that dual language program. Now, it hasn't been without startup pain and some difficulties. You're going to have that, but we're going to stay the course in that dual language program right there. And in fact, at my recommendation, the school board has already approved going to the old ECDC Bunch site, and we will spend a couple of $1 million making that site into a beautiful site. Because you're right, you're very right. Every school must look good, every school must be good, every school must be an attraction. And we are going to make ECDC Bunch into a beautiful dual language program. And we already have a significant number of Hispanics and whites who want to attend that school. You know, they can't get into Zero, or they couldn't get into Eisenhower, but they can get into that dual language program because it's a growing program. And I predict as well that it is through the use of magnets and it is through the use of really good choice programs that we will achieve diversity. It will happen because of people's choice, not because of anything that is forced. It will happen because we have excellent schools in every neighborhood. That's when that kind of migration of population will absolutely occur. Furthermore, the Tulsa Public Schools right now sponsor 3 high-quality charter schools, and we are having discussion with those charter schools about expansion. We have Lighthouse right there in the old Greeley site. Lighthouse is doing extremely well. We left that site vacant for only 1 year. I knew all along that we could not leave that site because, you see, really good schools. We could not leave that site vacant. Really good schools impact neighborhoods. And very early in my career at TPS, a couple of people. One, Gary Percival, still a current board member, and the other, my very dear friend, Bob Burton, took me into that neighborhood and said, look, this was once a neighborhood of promise. And I really learned from that experience that we have to do everything we can at that Greeley site where it is located to make it into an excellent school. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether it's a charter school or not. Last fall, I moved my mother into an assisted living center. And whenever I came in on the first day, I was invited to meet the management team at this assisted living center. And the very first lady in the room rushed up to me. Superintendents always like to hear this. And she said, Dr. Ballard, I absolutely love Tulsa Public Schools. I said, wow, I'm glad to hear that. She said, no, I really mean it. Bringing Lighthouse into that site where you did has just been absolutely, and this lady happened to be Caucasian, by the way. Bringing that school into that site has been absolutely fantastic for my family. I absolutely love that school. So we're sponsoring the schools. They are public schools. And just this week, in a historic vote, the Tulsa Public School Board of Education voted to enter into a planning year with 3 more charter schools. 2 will be located in East Tulsa, and they will be aimed at helping with our growing Hispanic population on the east side. And the 3rd will be located in the 61st and Peoria area. And that particular charter school has said in their opening statement, our goal is to help Memorial High School to become the greatest high school that it possibly can. And we do have students who are troubled students, who are low achieving students, and putting them in a more intense environment with the intention of them going to their neighborhood school at Memorial will benefit Memorial High School. Now, let me kind of switch off on what my theme is. I saw this as a couple of parts. I believe very strongly in what a couple of our panelists have said this evening, and that is, it really is about making every school, every neighborhood school, an absolutely great school. And so how do we do that? How do we accomplish that? There are 2 or 3 things that we absolutely must be focused on, and the first is a great teacher in every single classroom. A great teacher in every single classroom is the absolute most important ingredient. I will just say that when I came to Tulsa, that I did not find that to be the case. I did not find what I believe to be an excellent teacher in every single classroom. It still doesn't exist today. And it's compounded by the fact that we have statewide a shortage of 800 teachers. And today, we were short 66 teachers in Tulsa Public Schools, thus resulting in issues like my fellow panelist has talked about with substitutes, long-term substitutes, begging teachers who have left the school district to come back to the school district. But we have a teacher leader effectiveness program in Tulsa Public that I'm very proud of. We did not have such a department whenever I came here 6 years ago. The first year that we had that department, we called it a teacher effectiveness program. And we set about the business of every aspect of what it would take to ensure that there is a great teacher in every single classroom, because it is, without a doubt, the absolute single most important factor. We realized after a year that we left an important component out of the teacher effectiveness program, the teacher leader effectiveness program, because if you don't have a great leader in every building, then you can't foster great instruction. So we are absolutely about the business, steadfastly, and if you ask me to name any one thing that we are concentrating on more than anything else, it would be an effective teacher in every classroom, a great leader who understands instruction. It is a very involved, deeply involved program. I will be forever grateful that the first year that I came to Tulsa Public Schools, thanks to that, I say anyway, largely thanks to that great education pioneer, H.J. Green, who had connections with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that we ultimately became one of their partners in their teacher effectiveness initiative. They actually started that initiative after doing research, and the research showed them what any parent knows and any practitioner knows, and that is it's always about an effective teacher in every classroom. Their research bore that out. They have the facts and figures that show that. So they decided they would find 10 urban districts, and they would prove that they could reform that urban district by ensuring that there was a great teacher in every classroom. They started with well over 10,000 schools in their database, and they kept whittling it down. We were notified somewhere around 250 or so that we were a candidate for their program. Fell to 100, and we got interested and started filling out information. It got to 50, and we got really interested. It got to 20, and we realized we were in the running for that program. We did make the top 10, and everybody in the room knows that. And we have enjoyed the resources of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, being one of now 8 schools in America that they are helping to ensure that there's an effective teacher in every classroom. We're not there, but we are on the right track. And just this year, because our efforts have been so monumental in this area, we were awarded 2 very significant grants. One of those grants was just approved on Tuesday evening by our Board of Education, and it's a $4.7 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to work with and provide professional development for teachers in their first and second year. They only gave a couple of those in the United States. We spent a full year in planning on the kind of professional development that we could deliver. But I've also talked about our leadership initiative and how important that is. And just last year, we were notified last spring by the United States Department of Education that we were one of 20 organizations in America to receive a multi-million-dollar grant for leadership training. Actually, it was about $3.7 million, and we were one of only 2 school districts in America that received that grant. So people are recognizing that we are moving ahead. We had a lot of ground to cover up, and we have a lot of obstacles to overcome, but working with our community, working steadfastly toward this goal, then it can be accomplished. So our TLE program is very important. That's first and foremost. And the next thing we absolutely must have is we must have a rigorous curriculum in every school in the state of Oklahoma. And it's a shame that this legislature is caught up in fighting over what a statewide curriculum should be, and I understand all of the political things around that and everything, but we don't have any time to waste. We have to have a very strong, rigorous curriculum, and a part of that curriculum in a school district that has 29% Hispanic, 28% Black, and 26% White must show cultural competency. We have provided cultural competency training for all of the personnel in Tulsa Public Schools. Hannibal Johnson taught it. I have been in his class, and I have learned a tremendous amount. Frankly, I learned a lot about cultural competency by working with some of the marvelous colleagues of mine who are racially diverse at Tulsa Public Schools. That's where I really learned more about it than anywhere. But your rigorous curriculum must contain the component of cultural competency. And then we must absolutely make sure that we meet the needs of all of the kids. Okay, here's the deal, and it's been said by others on the panel. 88% of our kids will get up in a home that qualifies as poverty in the morning. 88% of our kids will get up. There are implications because of that. Kids coming to school not fully prepared, kids coming to school language delayed. Personally, I feel drawn to serve in an urban school district. And I strongly believe that those are obstacles that absolutely must be overcome. And we are doing that in a multitude of ways. We are working to overcome those obstacles with the very programs that I have talked about, with having community school programs. We are focused right now using the nucleus of what I have talked about, we are very focused on early literacy, that we think it's very important what happens in kindergarten 1 and 2. Last year, this past summer, we started a summer reading academy, and it was great. It was powerful. I spent several days at the summer reading academy, but here's what it's going to take all of us to do. We had 1,138 students who qualified for a summer reading academy, and we appealed directly into those homes. Get your child in a summer reading academy. We will transport them there, and exactly half showed up. So as a community, we must stand up and say, we got to get those kids in school. The room is peppered with teachers, and they face every day students who come in late, students who don't show up, and we can't teach kids who are not there, and it is a product of poverty. Only half of 1,138 is totally unacceptable. And then on test day, whenever we gave them their reading test, only 80% of them showed up to take the test. That means that a full 20% of the kids who took the summer academy didn't even show up to take a test that would determine whether or not they needed to be retained. We're not opposed to retention in Tulsa Public Schools. What we are opposed to is a single test on a single day determining that a child is going to be retained. We are opposed to that. We are adamantly opposed to the parents being left out of that equation. I could say family, because as a grandparent, I am very involved in my grandkids' education, and so are many grandparents who are out there right now. The parents should not be left out of that equation. The teacher should not be left out of that equation. The principal should not be left out of the equation, and a reading specialist shouldn't. And I happen to have a degree as a reading specialist, and I feel very strongly that reading specialists know whether or not kids should be retained. So we do need to have that focus on early literacy. We do need to be willing, if it comes to it, to retain kids, but we need everyone to see to it that we have kids on task more than they are on task. And to accomplish that, I will say that I believe I have a great relationship with the faith-based community in this city, and I think that is extremely important. We need groups of people. Okay. I'm ready. We need groups of people and facilities that can help kids in after-school tutoring programs. So I will wrap up what I have to say by summarizing and saying it really is about an excellent school in every way, excellent teachers in every single neighborhood, a quality education for every student every day without exception. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ballard. We have a lot of questions, and I really appreciate it. What I'm going to suggest, and I've handed out, I tried to sort it out by each one of the panelists, and they have a big stack of them. There's no way they're going to be able to answer all those questions. However, what I'm going to suggest, and I may be getting myself into trouble, but what I plan to do is collect these cards again and transcribe them, and then send it out to the panelists and have them respond in writing, and then we can post that on the Dan Allen website. Okay, with that said, what I would like to do is to be able to answer a few of the questions that you think you can best answer right now. We'll just one each, go down the row, and we'll start with you. Here we go.
Don't leave, I'm inviting you someplace. Don't leave. I promised in my presentation that I was going to invite you about storytelling. I said something about storytelling. I want to make an announcement here. About StoryCorps. We are a community partner with the University of Tulsa and StoryCorps. Let's hear it from the NPR listeners. You know what I'm talking about. StoryCorps, the StoryCorps recording booth will be at Guthrie Green, October 16th through November 15th. They will be recording 7 40-minute interviews every day. Everybody in here has a story to tell. If you will contact the John Hope Franklin Center for Reconciliation I'll tell you the number. You got pencils. 918-295-5009, or you can find it on the Dan Allen Center website. If you will contact the John Hope Franklin Center for Reconciliation in the next week or so, I will use my privilege as a community partner to make sure that you get an interview time that you want. StoryCorps National Oral History Project, coming to Tulsa, October 16th, November 15th, recording Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is your opportunity to become part of the National Archive of History of this country. Please take it. One of the things that was asked of me, that was my announcement. I have a question. One of the questions that was asked of me has to do with what next. The John Hope Franklin Center has a program of community dialogue sessions. The first session will be later this month, and until I was about to say it, I don't remember the date, but it's coming up later this month. It's on a Tuesday. It's the last Tuesday of this month. And we will be meeting at Panera Bakery on 15th Street. We invite everybody to join us, and the conversation topic for September and October will be a continuation of this evening's conversation about schools, resegregation, desegregation, integration, improvement, excellence. You bring your contribution to the conversation. We include it. By the end of the second session, we hope to have mapped an action plan that will give some direction to momentum that may have been built from this conversation. Those dates, and I feel really stupid for this, but those dates will be published on the Dan Allen site, and they will also be available from the John Hope Franklin site. And I hope to see all of you at Panera. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Dr. Ballard, question that's...
Okay, I'm going to say this. I really like these questions. These are really good questions, so I can't answer all of these questions. I'm going to make you a promise. Those of you who showed up tonight and wrote a question to your superintendent are going to get your questions answered. I'm going to take these questions back to my office, and I'm going to get, I think I can answer them, but I'm going to make sure that we get these answered correctly, and I'm going to make sure that these questions are published so that everybody here who asked these get an answer, because these are really good questions. I'm going to start with this one. And the reason that I'm going to start with this one is because we are about students. That's what we are first and foremost about tonight. And somewhere out there tonight, there is a 17-year-old African-American female who wants to ask her superintendent a question. And I'm going to answer that question for her. And her question is, why is it that my school will allow a cheer team full of white girls, but will not allow a dance team which will not only be full of black girls, but other races also? And I think that's a great question. I think that's a question from the heart. And I'm going to answer it this way. I believe it is about cultural competency training. Let me just say that years ago, in another life, in another school, in another superintendency, I was approached by a group of African-American leaders from my community about a couple of things. One was easy to solve. We hadn't been celebrating Martin Luther King Day. We did that immediately. The other one was, what about, and the question related to this, activities and racial diversity and kings, queens, and all that. So I'll tell you what we did. I'll say this to our student, that what we did was we did cultural competency training with students so that we could respect the diversity of all races. And I will have this looked into. I don't know where my student is tonight. But she wanted this question answered. I will find out about this. I'll let you move on to the next question. Yeah, go ahead.
I also got asked good questions, although I will have less homework to do than Dr. Ballard does. But I want to just, before answering my question, point out that one of the great champions of public education in Oklahoma, Senator Penny Williams, is with us tonight, and just never want to miss a chance to thank Penny for all that she has done for public education. So my easiest question was, do you think these issues are occurring by accident? This is a systemic issue happening by design, to which I think the answer is yes. then as important as integration is, it takes a toll on the community. Is it really the school system's responsibility to solve the integration issue, or we as homeowners to stop choosing to segregate ourselves? And I don't have a simple answer to that question. I think it's complicated, and that's what I tried to convey in my remarks, that school segregation and integration is caught up with neighborhood segregation, is tied up with income segregation and inequality. I think the only response that I could make is to recognize that simply to move students to schools in other neighborhoods or move people to other neighborhoods is not going to address some of the structural problems, but also to recognize that, and I tried to say in my comments, that much of what has been responsible for segregation, both historical and continuing, is not simply a question of choice, that there are so many economic, policy, financial sector structures that are put in place that do trap people in certain neighborhoods while giving other families choice. And I would encourage everybody who hasn't, the article I referenced in the Atlantic magazine by Ta-Nehisi Coates from earlier this year, The Case for Reparations, he makes a very provocative argument that we owe it, this country, to address the issue of reparations for centuries of discrimination, slavery and its aftermath. Whether you agree or disagree with that conclusion, the arguments he makes are very compelling, I think very eye-opening, and hope many of you will have a chance to read that and think that through.
I'll just mirror David's statement. These are fabulous questions. I was asked what role housing has played in the racial population shifts. Housing has played a huge portion in our population shifts. People live where they can find affordable housing. And so when we address where our housing issues remain, and we are able to put this appropriate support, such as our HUD affordable housing programs, in the areas where those individuals are suffering the most, we will really address that housing issue as a whole. But yes, it has played a remarkable part in how we are shifting in our migration patterns with housing costs rising. Yes, that is still occurring.
Fully recognizing that I stand between you all and a tray of cookies, I'll answer one of the 4 questions that are on this card, because I think it's an interesting question. Can you talk about the tensions that exist within the Hispanic community, such as hostilities among legal immigrants and undocumented immigrants? And I have to say that I've not been a witness to or am aware of any tensions between undocumented immigrants and legal immigrants, immigrants and immigrants. But I will tell you that sometimes we think that the Hispanic community is a homogeneous community, Mexican, and the fact is it's very different. And people that come from Mexico, the majority probably, people come from South America, people come from Spain. They're different in many different ways because their culture is different. They're different politically. My very good friend Pancho Anaya, I love Pancho Anaya, and we're partners in many things. A stalwart Democrat, I'm a conservative. Yeah, but that doesn't make us any less friends. We're still friends. And the other thing I think you need to know about the Hispanic community, and I envy the African American community because the African American community, when someone steps and takes the lead, the Hispanic community, the African American community follows. Councilman Jack Henderson was here earlier. And when Councilman Henderson presents things, the community follows what he says. In the Hispanic community, that doesn't happen. We have what, at least my observation. Well, as it is in politics. In the Hispanic community, In the Hispanic community, we have what I call, in all cultures, what I call the envidia factor or the envy factor. So when one of us leaders stands up and says, we should do this, the community says, well, why should we? Who are you? Why would we lead you? You're no better than men. And so we don't have the same kind of cohesion that the community has. So I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as an okay thing because friction has caused a lot of good things to happen.
I'm going to suggest that we break, that we will answer these questions if the panelists agree to look at them and answer them, and the center will facilitate answering those questions, and we'll post it on our website. It may be a couple weeks, 3 weeks before we'll be able to do that, but we definitely want to answer your questions because there's some very good questions. We just need to get out of here pretty quick because the people have to tear down the room and everything. We want to get our cookies. A couple of things that I need to say before we get cookies. The library asked me to make a plug for September 9th, 4 to 6, open house for kids at this library. And another thing too, Nancy McDonald was mentioned as one of the pioneers of the magnet schools in Tulsa. And that story is told in Ann Patton's book that we have in the back of the room. So if you're more interested in that. I would like to thank the panelists. We are really lucky to have this caliber of folks. And I applaud you for coming and joining in the discussion. I think it's great and appreciate it very much. Enjoy. Thank you so much.
I think, I'm not
Pardon me? Yeah, the website is on our handout, and so it's.
Hi, how are you, James? It's good to see you again. You doing well?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I wanted to tell you